Coming right up, a special edition of Straight Talk, a conversation with Long Beach Mayor Bob Foster.
Opinions expressed in the following program do not necessarily reflect the views of Charter Communications nor its sponsors. We recognize our obligation to present opposing points of view by responsible spokespersons. For information, please contact the director of program.
She stands in the face of evil and will not lose hope or faith. America, the land of freedom, is still the home of the brave. So raise the banner, call Old Glory. Let us join our fellow man. History will write the story. America will always stand.
Straight Talk is brought to you in part by Southern California Edison. For over 100 years, life powered by Edison. The Press Telegram, your local news leader for over 100 years. And Long Beach Magazine. Coastal Living Style.
Join us for tonight's edition of Straight Talk. And now your host, Art Levine.
Good evening and welcome to Straight Talk. We're honored to have as our guest for the entire show tonight, the Mayor of Long Beach, the Honorable Bob Foster. Bob, welcome back to our show.
It's a pleasure, Art.
Let's talk about the budget. That always is first on everyone's mind. It's a tough budgetary environment we're in. We finally got a budget, but there had to be give-backs from the unions. And tell us where we stand this year and next year on our city budget.
Do we really have to talk about the budget?
It's depressing. It's depressing.
Actually, it's a good story. Look, we all know we're in very difficult times, and the city was facing just a little short of about a $40 million, don't call it a deficit, because we have to balance our budget. But we had expenses that were exceeding our revenues by about $40 million. We divided that into two pieces. We took one piece, which was, if you want to call it concessions from our represented employees, that totaled just about a little under $20 million. And then the remainder, the next 20 or so, had to come from reductions in our operations. And we were able to do that. I mean, and everybody worked cooperatively. I want to applaud our represented employees from the POA and the IAM. Everybody did, and firefighters have done a great job, understood the city's situation, and we were able to get by this year and produce a balanced budget. But we have fiscal issues for the foreseeable future.
But $40 million cut on a general fund budget of about
$400 million.
$400 million. That's 10%. That's a big bite.
Yeah. Well, you didn't cut all of it. Remember, we took the employees basically deferred their increases, most of them.
That they were contractually
obligated to have. In fact, the largest deferral was with the police, who were contractually obligated for about a 9.3 to 9.5% increase in September from a contract that was drafted and signed in 2005. And they deferred it out for another 5.5 years.
One of the cutbacks was for the police academy, which, as you know, trains new police officers. And we have no academy this year. And of course, there'll be retirements and departures as there are every year. Won't that endanger police manning levels for the following year?
No, I think the police, when Chief Batts was here, fully explained that. Patrol will remain the same. The cutbacks have really occurred in other areas in the police department, and they're relatively small cutbacks. Look, I don't like this either, Art. You know,
you campaigned on 100 more police.
And we were halfway there. We were halfway there to 100 more police officers. No one anticipated this kind of economic
So where are we vis-a-vis the manning when you took office today.
To be candid, I have to go check, but I think we're probably just slightly ahead of where we were. But we'll probably go down to where I was when I took office. I mean, there's just no other way to do this. Otherwise, you're going to start, you will cut into other programs which have an effect on public safety.
And yet we've had some tragic incidents, as you well know, in our city with gangs and shootings.
That is unrelated, and I'm really glad you brought that up, because it's unrelated to the number of police officers we had. This is what happens. It's a normal reaction to say we have a really tragic incident, as we did at Wilson High School with Melody Ross. And we say, well, we need more police. Actually, that's not the case. I mean, we've had a couple of incidents where police were within 100 feet of an incident. You can't put a police officer in every corner.
But you would take the point that more police means more safety.
No, well, it depends. I mean, I think there may be better ways of policing. Using technology may be better. It's not just putting bodies on the street.
Okay.
I've actually learned a lot in the last 3 years about law enforcement. There are technological changes you can have which would be much more efficient. It's not necessarily putting bodies on there. And we've had 10 years of reduction in crime. This is a safe city. Our crime rate.
Then let's cut it to 500.
No, that's not the argument. But the argument is this is an integrated package. You can't have a safe city unless you also have parks and recreation programs, unless you have after-school programs, because those are the things that pay dividends down the road.
But PAL, for example, which we were involved with many years, was cut.
But I don't know where PAL would stand in the pantheon of things that will prevent crime in the future. But let me just tell you, we're very cognizant that we want to make sure that we don't wind up cutting back on things today. They're going to have a much bigger price in the future. Okay. So that is why every department in the city was subject to some reduction. There's no sacred department
cows.
here.
Yeah. And I know that you feel strongly about this, that the city's budgetary problems are related to the states. And let's spend a moment talking about what I've called on this show many times a dysfunctional state legislature.
That's being kind. Look, here's the asymmetrical relationship. The city really only has one tool to be able to deal with shortfalls. That's to reduce expenditures, somehow, some way. You can't readily raise taxes. You have to go to the vote of the people, and I wouldn't even propose that in this environment, given the economy. Secondly, you can't borrow money readily, and you certainly can't print money. The state, however, is not encumbered that way. The state can raise taxes. I'm not advising them to do so, but what they have done, they have failed to control their spending, and that's a long discussion, too long for this show, but they have literally failed to control spending. They've kicked the can down the road. Now the can's coming back to haunt them. What they have done is they have raised taxes substantially last year. They've run out of road there, but they have that ability. And so that what they've turned and taken and stolen money from not only local government, but from every emergency fund that's out there. California today has virtually nothing in its funds for emergency, either fiscal or natural emergencies, natural disasters, but IOUs. You would probably have to have a special tax assessment if, in fact, we had a major earthquake in California. That's irresponsible. And it's a long story of how we got here, but the fact is they refused to make the hard decisions in Sacramento. And what they do then, they turn to entities like local government who have acted responsibly, who have to balance their budget
and grab money.
Stolen money from them. And we have only one recourse, and that is, in fact, to be able to cut expenditures.
It's outrageous. It's outrageous. We'll be back after these messages.